Are you tired of spending too much of your hard-earned money at the supermarket? Are you dreaming of farm fresh eggs, homegrown veggies, and homemade everything? Well, welcome to Ditch the Store, where we break free from supermarket dependence and take back control of our food and household essentials. I'm CJ, and I'm here to show you that life is too short for store-bought eggs. So let's get started. G'day everyone, and welcome to episode 144. And today's episode is So You Want to Be a Homesteader. We're going back to basics. We're starting back at the beginning and working our way through. I've been doing the podcast now for a couple of years, and we haven't spoken about the real basic stuff for a while. So I thought it might be a good time to rehash because things change. Certainly over the last couple of years, a lot's changed. So we're going to go back to basics for the month of January. We're going to talk all about where to start, how to start, what you need to think about before you start, a couple of myths that you need to avoid, a couple of real home truths that you probably need to pay attention to. But before we get into it, I want to say, first of all, Merry Christmas. This episode is dropping 1st of January. So Merry Christmas for the last week and Happy New Year today for those who celebrate New Year. We're moving into 2026, and after the years of 2024 and 2025 for me, I keep saying 2026 is my year. I've had a shit couple of years as far as injuries and things like that, things that couldn't be avoided. So 2026, I am joking that I'm going to start one of those little boards that's, it's been so many days since a hospital visit, to try and get us into that point of no injuries, no illnesses, no major, surgeries. I feel like all I've done is have surgeries and shit in the last 2 years. And I'm really, really looking forward to having a couple of years of none of that. And I know, in my 50s, shit happens. Things are going to go astray, but I'm pretty healthy now. I've been sticking to my ketovore, carnivore kind of diet for a while, and I am reasonably healthy, but accidents like broken bones can't be helped. They're called accidents for a reason because we didn't plan for them to happen. So 2026 is going to be my year, and I have got big things planned for the podcast, but also for Ditch the Store, our online education program, and also for my print-on-demand store, which is called Not the Farmer's Wife, which is what the podcast used to be called, but that's kind of come away as a sub-branch where I sell clothing and seat covers and towels and linens and things like that. So all homestead related, obviously. And so if you are in the market for some T-shirts, some towels, some seat covers, head along to notthefarmerswife.com and you will see the range that we have there. We have quite an extensive range now. So I'm kind of focusing on that, focusing on the Ditch the Store programs, which I'm hoping to get a couple of courses up and running this year. I'm also hoping to get quite a few printables ready to go. So some I may give away for free. Some will be at a limited small cost, at the end of the day, I'd rather people have the information than me become wealthy from it. I think I have enough wealth in my life. I'm very comfortable with the amount of wealth I have in my life. Obviously, it'd be nice to pay off the farm. That's the goal at the end of the day. But we'll see how we go with that. Anyway, so this is New Year's Day, and you are probably sitting down and thinking, what am I going to do this year? A lot of people get to that point where they have their New Year's resolutions. I don't like to do resolutions so much, but I do like to sit down and go, what do I want out of this year? What's my aim for this year? What are my goals? What do I want to focus on? What's really important to me? And each year that changes, and I think it's important to be realistic, but at the same time, it doesn't hurt to put a few things on that list that you think, it might be really stretching myself, but if you don't think about it, if you don't write it down and go, this is what I would like, you're never going to get there anyway. So have a list of must-haves, have a list of would be really nice to get to, and then I think some people refer to them as big, hairy, audacious goals, hags. Sit down and write those and go, you know what, if I could get to these, that would be awesome. Because you never know. If you really get a pattern going, you might actually get to them. So I know a lot of people, when they think about homesteading and, what it means to be a homesteader, they usually automatically assume that they have to behave like a farmer. But I want to say right from the get-go that farming and homesteading to me are very, very different things. I do consider myself sometimes a farmer here because we have 120 acres. We have pasture-raised eggs that we sell to customers. We have cattle that we're raising for beef. We have goats that we're raising for meat and milk and fibre. So on the greater scheme of things, some would consider us a farmer. That being said, I also consider myself a homesteader. And I think that there is a difference between the two. And it's not necessarily a difference that's really easy to define. In my mind, I see farmers as being more commercial. So when I say to people that I sell eggs, I'm sure that people look at me and view me as a farmer. But we sell eggs on a very small scale. We don't have 600 chickens out in the paddock. We have at most 40 at the moment. I think we've only got 25 up there. I haven't been up to head count for so long because of my broken leg. But we're probably down to about 25 with the last fox attack that we had. So 25 girls producing eggs, it is not a commercial amount of eggs by any stretch. We cover our customers, we cover enough eggs for ourselves, and that's it. So to me, even though it looks like we're a farmer from the outside, I see myself as more of a hobbyist in regards to selling produce. And therefore, I feel like I fall more into the homestead category. And to me, homesteaders are people who want to provide enough food for their own family with maybe a little bit extra to sell as excess, which is definitely the category that we fall into here. I mean, at the moment, we've only got one cow that we're raising for meat. T-Bone, he's 6 months old, or maybe a little bit older, 8 months maybe now. Lost count. But he's what we're raising to put in the freezer. We've got goats that we can put in the freezer, but we're actually got 7 male goats that are weathered, so they're not entire goats, they're not intact, they don't have balls, and they're going for meat, and I'm looking to sell them as a lock stock bundle down to a abattoir at Cowra. So we will be selling animals for meat, and we will be raising animals for meat, but we kind of fall halfway between that homesteader and farmer. While we are selling things and making money off it, we're not making enough money to consider ourselves a commercial enterprise. And I guess that's where homesteading kind of falls to me, is if you're not doing it to earn a living, but you're doing it more from the perspective of if you are catering to your family and covering your family's needs with maybe a little bit excess to sell at the markets or to sell any excess stock that you have, that would be my definition of homesteading. So for most people, it starts with one thing, and I always joke and say it's the gateway drug to homesteading, and that is most people start by Googling chickens and backyard chickens and whether or not they can keep backyard chickens. Some people start with a veggie garden straight up. They don't want to keep animals. They don't want livestock as such. But those two things are the two things that usually start you off. How to grow veggies in your backyard or how to grow chickens in your backyard. And usually that's where most people start. Now, if you are growing chickens in your backyard, my second book is just about to come out. I'm just finishing the last of the photos for it. But my first book is already out, which is Brooded to Plate. And I'm trying to hold that up for the camera it's not working. My camera is terrible. That's one of the things I wanted for Christmas and didn't get was a new camera, but I'm working on it. So Brooded to Plate is my book that I wrote about raising chickens for meat, because that's a process that we do here on the farm. We haven't done it this summer because of my broken leg, but we normally do it. And the second book that's coming out is Eggs Without Cartons, which is raising backyard chickens for the purposes of eggs instead of meat. So keep an eye on Amazon. I'll put the links in the show notes for those books, but you can get those off Amazon. And that's where most people start, is chickens or veggie gardens. So what I want you to think about when you're thinking about homesteading is don't try and do everything at once. Pick one thing and start with that. And the reason I say that is because the overwhelm of trying to do everything, and unfortunately I have been guilty of this, so I understand what it feels like. the overwhelm of trying to do everything can wipe you out. It's kind of like trying to drink, have a sip of water from a fire hose. You feel like you're getting slapped in the face and pushed every which way and not getting to any of it. And that not only won't serve you as far as homesteading, but it may discourage you from doing it because you think, oh shit, I can't cope with all these things. This is too much. I can't do it all. And you'll give up completely. So the best way to move ahead is to not try and do everything. Just pick one thing and start with that and get really good at that first before you take on the second thing. Why do people want to homestead is a question that, and I've actually been asked this by people that I work with. Why do you do that? Like, wouldn't you rather just not have the extra workload when you get home overnight after work? Yes, I'd love to sit on my ass every afternoon. But I think it's really important to talk about why you want to homestead and why you want to have that kind of lifestyle and not have all this amazing amount of downtime that you will have if you don't homestead. And believe me, it is hard work. So I don't want anybody to go into it thinking, oh, I can homestead just in my spare time and still have free time to go and catch up with my mates and go to the gym and go for a run every morning and all that kind of stuff. Those things get put to the side. And I'm not saying that you can't balance it out and do those things, but if you have livestock, they come first. The handy hopper and I get up every morning and we go and milk goats, and that's from usually September through to about April, sometimes May. And if you're not prepared to be on the farm and get up and milk every morning, don't get a milking animal. They're the most time consuming as far as you have to do it every day. You can have a day off, but they'll suffer. You can have a day off, but it's something that you really need to be consistent with. My family have just advised me that they're doing a family reunion next week in December, and I can't go because it's an 8-hour drive to where my family, most of my family live, and I can't leave the farm for that long because by the time I drive up there, have the family reunion, drive back, I would have missed 2 full days. There's no point in me going. Eggs, you can get away with a weekend away. You can do a weekend away. And during the molting season, when they're not laying all the time, you could probably do more than a day away. And you can also get people to come and house sit for you with chickens because they're relatively easy to look after. Milking animals, it's a little bit different. If you just have a cow in the paddock that you're fattening up, you can go for a week. So long as you've got somebody come and check to make sure they haven't escaped out the fences, you literally could probably go away for a couple of weeks and not have a problem if you had somebody consistently coming to check on them. So there are ways around being tied to it every single day. But for the most part, you know, if you've got a veggie garden, you've got chooks, you've got milking animals, you're going to be on the farm every day. And Joel Salatin has a really good saying, and I'll probably butcher this, but he says to build a lifestyle that you don't need a holiday from. And homesteading's a bit like that. If you really love what you're doing, then holidaying doesn't seem as interesting. Like don't get me wrong, I'd still love to have a week out, you know, in the middle of winter when the animals are all dormant and not doing anything. I would love to have a week out and go somewhere, go skiing, go to somewhere warm and lay on a beach. That would be awesome. But I don't have to. My life isn't such that I'm like, oh my God, I have to have a holiday every year, otherwise I'm going to die. It's not at that point. But why do people want to homestead? So the primary things that I hear that people talk to me about is rising food costs is the big one. Here in Australia, and I don't know what is happening overseas, I don't know what prices are kind of going to overseas, but here in Australia, we have a really shit kind of cost of living at the moment. It's gone pear-shaped. I can't explain how it's happened over the last couple of years. I mean, I can bitch and moan about the government and what they're not doing. And they keep telling us that they're bringing the cost of living down. I haven't seen it. Certainly when I go to the shops and I spend $300 on groceries, the amount of groceries in the shopping cart are shrinking every single time I go. It feels like less and less. So being able to produce your own eggs, your own milk, and if you're like me and live a ketovore, carnivore kind of lifestyle, then eggs and milk are your main, they're like a main food source. So being able to produce your own eggs and milk and potentially fill a freezer with chickens and beef, that cuts down a lot of costs. If you add to that having a veggie garden, then certainly your salad or your salad could be grown in the veggie garden. Apart from maybe a few things, we can grow olives here, and I would love to grow olives here because we love chucking olives in our salad. We love a good Greek salad. But onions, garlic, tomatoes, salad greens, cucumbers, they can all be grown in just about in anywhere in Australia. If you're in a really, really cold area, you might want a greenhouse. But for the most part, you could pretty much grow all of your salady kind of things anywhere in Australia. You can also grow pumpkins and potatoes, which you can then store for winter months without a problem. And they are better to store than, obviously salad greens don't last very long once they've been cut. But rising food costs is one of the big ones. And I really so understand that, particularly if you're feeding teenage kids. I've got a 13-year-old boy who eats me out of house and home. He's just hit 184 centimetres tall and he's not even 14 yet. He'll be 14 this year. But it's killing me. Like, he eats non-stop. And I'm trying to not let him eat junk non-stop because, I want him to be healthy. And that's the other thing. People want to be healthier. They don't want food that's pre-processed or ultra-processed foods. And they know that growing their own food means that they cut out that processing level. I was talking to my mum the other day and trying to explain to her, because she's had some health issues, and I said, realistically, you have to stop eating the ultra-processed food. She still enjoys Wheat Bix in the morning, and I said to her, eat bacon and eggs for breakfast. You love it anyway. Why eat Wheat Bix? Oh, because the doctor says I need fibre. I said, yeah, but it's ultra-processed. If you're going to have fibre, if it's really that important to you to have fibre, which, having done carnivore, I now know that fibre is not what it's all cracked up to be according to the doctors. But if you really insist on having fibre, eat some cucumbers and some tomato and, some apple and some berries. They all have fibre in them too, and those foods aren't ultra processed. When you see them, you can tell what they were before you ate them. They still look like the fruit, vegetable, whatever they were, that came off the plant or out of the ground. And I said that to her. You cut out the ultra-processed, only eat foods that resemble what they were when they were first grown. If it looks like meat, it's meat. If it looks like a potato, it's a potato. If it looks like a strawberry, well, guess what? It's a strawberry. If you have something that is so processed that you can't identify what that was before it was made into that item, like Wheat Bix, it doesn't resemble wheat in any way, shape or form because it's so ultra-processed. Stone ground wheat, and I really want one of those milling machines, being able to go and buy wheat, husks, hulls, whatever, I don't know whether, is that what you call them? Being able to go and buy them and mill your own flour, man, that'd be so much better. Like, I've seen people doing it in the States and I'm jealous as. Wheat is something that is really hard to grow here because every wheat strain you get has been treated with chemicals. So I need to go back and find those ancient ones rather than the current ones that all the farmers grow commercially. So that's one of the big ones. Mystery ingredients is another one. And I keep going back to Bavaria 10. My God, I don't know what the governments are thinking in some of these countries. Over in Europe, there's a couple of countries that are really pushing the Bavaria 10. If you don't know what Bavaria 10 is, I think I did an episode on it, but I'll try and link it if I did. But Bavaria 10 essentially is a supplement given to cows to try and stop them farting and burping because they're killing the environment. It's not the 50 million jets that are flying over. It's not the people, all the transport industry, which makes up most of the fucking emissions that people talk about. And not that I actually believe in climate change in the format that the government tries to push it anyway, but they're actually trying to stop cows from burping. And it's like, for fuck's sake, the cows burping was not hurting the environment. Anybody that believes that really needs to go and, there's a really good book called The Great Plant Myth or The Plant Diet Myth or something. I'll try and put a link in the show notes to that too. Fantastic read, talks about climate change, talks about animals and, our modern diet. and a plant-based diet and how that's not optimal for human health. And oh my God, after reading that, I don't know what the issue is, why people have such an issue with cows. Cows are not hurting the environment. Cows have been around for hundreds of years. Plains, not around for so long. And for some reason, the cows are getting the blame. Anyway, Bovea 10 is a supplement fed to cows to try and stop them burping. Now, a lot of farmers over in the UK, over in Europe, are now saying that their cows are dropping dead. Their cows are actually dying from being fed this supplement, and they're becoming sterile and not being able to breed. And the government is still pushing. They're actually telling farmers they have to feed it to their cattle. Now, there is no fucking way I'd be feeding a supplement to my cows that is not proven to be safe. And clearly, if there are cows dropping dead, that is not a safe supplement. At the moment, Coles and Woolworths cannot or refuse to put out a statement saying that the meat sources that they're obtaining their meat from are not cows. They can't confirm that the cows aren't being fed Bovea 10. So I would not be buying meat from Woolworths or Coles if you don't want unknown supplements in your meat. I would be going to the butcher shop, and there's certainly in Canberra here, there's a couple of really good quality butcher shops, or go online to farmer to table or our cow. There's a couple of really good direct from farmer sources of meat, and ask the question, are your cows fed Bovea 10? Are they fed supplements that haven't been tested or proven? You will find that most cattle growers don't want to feed Bovea 10. They get that it's a supplement that's untested, and it's like having a vaccine that you don't know the strength of. You don't know whether or not it's actually functional and going to work, and they're giving that supplement to their cattle and then expecting us to eat the meat that's coming from those cows and drink the milk that's coming from those cows. So check out the milk sources you're getting and check out the meat sources you're getting, because you don't want mystery ingredients in your food. Anybody that lives in Australia and has travelled to the States, and I had a friend that lived over there for 3 years on posting, and she said to me every time she picked up something, she'd look at the label at the back and go, high fructose corn syrup, it's in bloody everything. It's engine oil. Essentially, it's engine oil, and it's in all of their food. It's in soft drinks. It's in any kind of pastries and bread products. It's in all kinds of sweets, any sweet desserts that are ultra processed. High fructose corn syrup. Just go and drink some engine oil if you're really that desperate to have something horrid in your diet. And the other thing I think that's making people go towards homesteading is supermarket fatigue. Going to the supermarket each week and being faced with less than best quality fruit and vegetable, that's really annoying. You look at, and I bought cherries the other day off a roadside stall because it's cherry season here in Australia, and you're buying it direct from the farmer. The cherries are so fresh. They are so good. MJ and I were in the supermarket that day, and they have cherries that you can sample to test before you buy them at the supermarket. And we tasted them, and they tasted bland. They didn't taste like cherries. I think it's because they've been in cold storage, or I don't know what, but they just didn't taste like cherries. We bought these ones off the guy at the roadside stall. They were dearer. Oh, actually, they worked out less. They weren't as dear. It was $25 a kilo, or just over a kilo he had. And we paid $25 for it. In the supermarket, it was $16 for 500 grams. So it's $32 a kilo. $32 a kilo for cherries that don't taste like cherries. And we paid $25 and we got just over a kilo. And they taste amazing. And we're getting them direct from, well, I wouldn't say direct from farmer. This guy has probably bought them off the farmer and come and sold them at a roadside stall. But still, it's only one step away. It's not 3 steps away. So I think the main things that make people go, oh, homesteading would be a really good choice for me, is that they want real food. They want to know their food cycle. They want to actually see where it's coming from and know that it's not coming out of cold storage and that it's not being handled by 15 different people and being sprayed with different things. They actually know where it's coming from. But because they want real health, people are starting to be so discerning about what they put in on their family's plates. If you have children that have any kind of health issue, certainly, OJ growing up was asthmatic, had bad eczema, he had a bit of lactose intolerance, he had that real cluster of autoimmune stuff, and changing over to raw milk, changing over to making my own bread instead of buying bread with all the different chemicals in it, things like that for him, and then putting him on a more of a ketovore kind of diet has been amazing. His asthma's gone. We were giving him a teaspoon of natural honey from our own hives. We did that for 6 months straight, and he went in for his asthma check, and they said, you can come off all your meds, you've got no asthma. Now, I'm not saying that honey is a miracle cure. Please don't think that I'm saying that. But certainly in OJ's case, it worked. Feeding him 6 months of raw honey direct from a local hive, our hive, so couldn't get any more local than that, cured his asthma. And I'm going to say it cured his asthma because he grew out of it, combined with the fact that he was being introduced to these local pollens. It was enough for him to get beyond his asthma. So I think that's why people are heading towards it. They're starting to understand that doing homesteading and having control of your food supply means that you have control of your health and control of your family's health. And I can't think of anything more important than that. I think once you become a parent, all bets are off. I could live with having shitty health myself and not looking after myself, but my kids, whoa, next level. That's not going to happen. All I want is what's best for them. Now, for us as homesteaders, we went from we were in a suburban block in town. I'd grown up on a farm, but we were on a suburban block. And then we moved to Gunning, which is a small country town outside of Canberra, and we moved on to 2.5 acres. And there we had our first beehive, we had our first chooks, we had our first milking goats, we had a veggie garden, we had fruit trees, we had, we kind of threw ourselves right into it, which I would not recommend doing maybe in the same speed that we did it. I would have probably stretched it out a bit further. I was trying to do all the things at the same time. We managed it, but we managed it because between the handy helper and I, we're both a little bit nuts on the whole, list building and getting things done. But we went from that 2.5 acres. Now, we sat on that for 4 years and did 2.5 acres of those things. And honestly, that was enough. In that 4 years, we learned so much about veggie gardening. I learned that I'm a terrible gardener and I need to practice a lot more, but that I'm really amazing at looking after chickens and goats, which is, always my thing. I always love looking after livestock anyway. I learned a lot about fruit trees because we had established fruit trees on that property. We don't have so many established fruit trees here. That's another thing that I need to work towards. But again, I'm not beating myself up about it because I've got other things that I'm doing, like milking goats and looking after chickens. So we had 2.5 acres for 4 years and we really learned a lot. We had our first beehive. We now have like 5 or 6 beehives. We had a first little clutch of chickens, which was only 3 hens to start with. That's all we needed. And then we got given 2 more hens when somebody was moving and they advertised and said, can somebody take my 2 hens? We're moving and I need to get rid of them. And I put my hand up and took them. In the end we had 5 hens, which it was more than enough. We weren't selling them. We were just using them for our own consumption. Unfortunately, after 4 years, I decided that I needed more land. I needed to be able to have a bigger herd of goats. I needed to have more chickens so that I could sell more eggs, because at that point I'd started giving away a few eggs because the flock had grown a little bit. I think we had about 10 hens in the end. And I had enough eggs that I was trading eggs out for people. So we needed more land. So then we looked for the big place and we found 120 acres. And since then we've had cattle. We've got horses here as well, not that they contribute anything to homesteading. And I think Joel Salatin does talk about it in his book, You Can Farm, that horses are probably the biggest waste of money that you'll ever invest in, and that they have very little that they can contribute to the farm or the homestead. But the reason that we did that was because, money stress. I wanted to be able to grow our own food and not have to purchase food. And there is an argument where people say, oh, you spend like, $30 to get a $1 tomato. I get that. But long term, as your skills get better and as you're able to grow things from seed that you've kept from your last lot of produce, the cost does come down. The yearly cost does come down. You've got the infrastructure set up. If you're seed saving from each year, then, we keep some spuds that go to iSpuds that go back into the ground. If you're keeping seeds and keeping things that you can then replant, the cost does come down, and you've already got your infrastructure set up, so those costs are out of the way. Same with chickens. Once you've got a chicken coop built and you've got your chickens there, each year, your eggs are getting more valuable to you because they're costing you less each time. If you start them growing your own chicken feed as well, which you can do to a degree, you can grow mats of chicken greens. Ours are open air pastured chickens and they get moved around a paddock, so we don't need to do that. But in a small environment, you absolutely can do that. The costs do start to come down. Nutrition, obviously, was the big one. With OJ with having his autoimmune issues, having raw milk for us was a huge plus. And raw milk is very expensive in Australia for raw goat's milk, and raw cow's milk is illegal in Australia unless it's your own cow that you're milking. So for us, that was really the only option we had. Less chemicals in our food. When I do grow veggies, knowing that they haven't been sprayed with anything, knowing that my cows haven't been injected with anything is amazing. And knowing that my chickens, while they do get dewormer, my meat birds don't get dewormer, so therefore there's no extra chemicals in the meat that we're eating. There is dewormer going into my egg chickens, and because I have such a large flock, I have to worm them. But I'm also looking into alternatives for natural worming products as well, things like pumpkin seeds and stuff like that. But it means that I can produce food for my family that is better for them, which is amazing for me. Now, I was very lucky because I had the handy helper who, although he had no farming background and no farming experience, he was a very willing learner. And I would say if you are looking at homesteading and thinking, God, can I do this? It really needs to be a whole family conversation. You need to have a conversation with your partner, with your family. If you're going to do it alone, then I would say to you, really, really baby steps. If you're doing it on your own, livestock is hard on your own. So veggie gardens on your own, no problem, go for it. Even beekeeping on your own, no problem, go for it. But for some things, milking goats, the cattle, if I hadn't have had the handy helper and I broke my leg, I wouldn't have been able to milk at all this year because he's doing all the heavy lifting while I'm the talent. I come in and milk the goats. He does all the heavy work. So without a partner who is on board and wants to do those things, it would be very difficult to go into homesteading with livestock involved. If you're just talking about making your own soap, making your own sourdough bread, veggie gardening, you can do that on your own. You can absolutely do that on your own. But if your family are on board, it's going to make it so much easier. So you really need to have that conversation with your family and say, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to veer towards. Are we all in? Can we all do it? And kids love it. I mean, my two have processed chickens, meat birds. They look after the egg birds. At the moment, they're looking after them for me because I can't get over the fence with my broken leg. They also help out with feeding our two bottle babes. We've actually got 3 bottle babes at the moment because 2 of the boys we've just taken out of the paddock away from the others to desensitise them from that flock because they are going to their forever homes. Most of our boys get sold for meat, but if we have somebody approach us who wants 2 wethers as pets on their farm, then I will do that under certain circumstances. I vet the people. And so we've got 2 boys that are over 3 months old now and they're getting ready to go to their forever home as pets. And so we've segregated them and the kids are helping with that. As far as shearing and things like that go, the kids don't necessarily get hands-on with that because it is a bit more technical. The handy helper and I manage that one. But, keeping the cows and the goats in different paddocks and moving them and getting water containers filled up and things like that, the kids are all in for that. They're all helping with that. So it's really important that the family are on board because it's going to make life a lot easier. Now, what homesteading isn't, and this is really important, I think, for people who've got no background in farming or homesteading and are walking into it going, I don't know what I'm walking into. This is going to be my first attempt. It's not picture perfect. It's not what you see on Instagram. And I sometimes refer to it as the ballerina farm style. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go to Instagram and look up ballerina farms. I love these guys. And I follow them and I look at their curated videos and go, wow, that looks so pretty and so clean and so beautiful. And look at all that food she's making from scratch. That's amazing, as I go out and buy takeaway. Because some days are takeaway days. And, while I try to make everything from scratch at home, the reality of life is that homesteading is messy. Homesteading is not everything going to plan. Homesteading is sometimes being so exhausted that you don't have the energy to make something from scratch. And it's really important that people know that, so that they don't beat themselves up and go, oh my God, I'm not living up to this expectation of making every single thing in my house from scratch. I don't make everything in my house from scratch. Last night we sat down and had hummus and crackers for dinner with some salami and ham. And, the handy helper's sitting there eating the crackers going, have you ever made crackers? And I said, yes, I have made crackers. They're a pain in the ass, and it's much easier to buy the cheapo crackers because the handy helper and the kids are the only ones that eat them, and they don't eat them that often. So I don't care. When it's Christmas time and I'm tired, they'll get what they get. But it's really important not to beat yourself up and go, I have to be this picture perfect curated Instagram image of homesteading, because that's not true. We go out into the paddock, we get covered in goat shit because the goats are standing in goat shit sometimes, and then they jump up on your pants and you get goat shit all over your pants, and you could have just put them on and they could be perfectly clean, and now they're perfectly dirty. I certainly don't wear dresses walking around the farm. I have to wear pants. It's more practical for climbing over fences, for dealing with animals. A dress would it'd be flowy and lovely and get in the way and get putrid, and I'd be doing more washing than I'd be doing anything else. So please don't think that it has to be that. It's not got to be that. And while it's beautiful to look at those videos and dream, the reality is there's goat shit, there's animal weighing on you, there's milk spilt all over you, which goes yuck, and then you've got to wash things more. And honey, when you're processing honey, you get covered in crud. It's not clean. Anybody that shows you a clean image of somebody processing honey has never processed honey. It's sticky, it's messy, processing animals, meat birds. The big joke in our house is if you're processing birds and you feel something on your lip, don't lick it. Whatever you do, don't lick it. Because when you're processing animals, guts go everywhere. Blood goes everywhere. It's just the way it is. Anybody that shows you a perfectly curated image of them cutting up meat, it's not real. It's for Instagram. So don't look at that and think you have to be that. It's going to be messy. Now, the next thing is, what it isn't is, it's not all or nothing. You can be a homesteader and only do a couple of the things. You don't have to have livestock. You could just have a veggie garden, make your own sourdough bread, dabble in making your own soaps. Certainly, I've been making laundry detergent and home cleaner for a while, and it's working brilliantly. So, like even with my broken leg, I can still do that. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. Do the things that you can do, and do the things that are important to you first. If you have skin irritations and using chemical cleaners is really, cutting you up, start with soaps and laundry detergent. You don't have to have a veggie garden. You can start just with that. And once you get into a pattern with that, then add something else in. If your dietary issues are a concern for you, start making your own sourdough bread. Start with your veggie garden. Start growing a few things, even in pots. Even if you're in a rental property in pots, you could start doing it there. But you don't have to do everything. I jumped in with a lot of things before I was ready. I mean, the sourdough bread, I still make sourdough bread for the kids from time to time, but in all honesty, that's, if something had to drop, that would probably drop first. If I need to spend time getting my veggie garden up, then the sourdough might sit for a lot longer and not get made. You've just got to do what you can with what time you've got and what facilities you have. And the other thing is, it's not a one size fits all. So you might know somebody or follow somebody and they might have a beautiful veggie garden and you might be a terrible gardener. And it's okay to go, that's not my thing. That I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to veggie garden. I'll buy my fruit and veg from the farmers markets, but I'll make my own bread, my own soap, my own lotions for my skincare. I might have some chooks in the backyard, that kind of thing. If whatever works for you, and even if it's small, even if it's just making soap and just making cleaning products in the house, if that's what works for you, then stick with it and do that. What homesteading is, I've got a little list in front of me here. What homesteading is, Practical, doable, and learnable. Having a learning mindset is probably the most important thing when it comes to homesteading, because you will always be learning something new. People trial things and then they post and go, hey, I tried this and this worked. And it's amazing how much you can pick up from other homesteaders. And it's really important to go into it with that open mind of, I don't know everything, but I'm willing to learn, because that will get you a long way. The other thing is making the mindset shift of making more and buying less. And, like I say, there are nights where we have takeout. Absolutely, there are nights where Thursday nights in our house are a nightmare. MJ has footy training through winter, so pitch black before I get home, footy training, and OJ has air cadets. So he's at air cadets until 9:30 at night. I don't get home till 9:30, till 10:30 by the time I drive home. OJ has food from air cadets at the canteen there. He buys food there. And MJ usually will have takeout. Now, I don't always have takeout myself. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. It just depends. If I've brought something with me from home, then I'll eat whatever I brought with me. But if I haven't had time, then I'll eat takeout. If I'm hungry, I will eat it. And I will just try and make better choices about which takeout I get. But for the most part, we try and make more and buy less. We try not to have to purchase everything from the supermarket. And just having that little mindset shift of I'll make what I can goes a long way. And remember too, it's a lifestyle, not a checklist. As much as I am the queen of checklists, I love my checklists. It can be overwhelming having constant lists of things to do. Try and think of it more of as a lifestyle change, a bit like when you say, I'm going to commit to going to the gym every day or 3 days a week. That's a lifestyle change. Homesteading is a lifestyle change. I'm going to commit to making my own laundry soap. Once a week, I'm going to schedule some time and I'm going to make some laundry soap and put it in a container and put it out in the laundry. And I'm going to make sure that I've always got it. It's a commitment to doing something that is a lifestyle change. And once you get going with that, it's really easy to stay with it. Now, top 5 things you need to get started. So you need your why. You need to know why you're doing it. If you don't have a why, and years ago I read that book, Simon Sinek's book, Know Your Why. If you don't have a why, it's really hard to stay committed to something. Knowing what your why is, whether it's better health, cutting down costs, better nutrition, whatever it is, once you know your why, then it makes it really easy to kind of come back to it and go, when you're sitting there and you go, oh God, I've got to make some more laundry powder and I really don't want to do that. Oh, but that's right. I've been doing it because my clothes aren't covered in chemicals. I'm not getting skin irritations. My clothes feel better. It's cheaper for me to make laundry detergent at home rather than buy it. Once you flick through those things in your head, you get up and get it done. One doable project at a time. Start with one thing. Chickens, veggie garden, sourdough, making soap. Pick one thing and stick with that until you perfect it, until it's easy for you, until you are doing it as a habit and a routine that doesn't impact anything else. Then add something else on. Don't do like I did and get chickens and a veggie garden going and then, we'll get some goats as well and a beehive as well. That was probably a bit much. And it worked in the end. I'm not saying you can't do it, but if you're trying really hard not to fail, start with one thing, perfect it, get really good at it, get it into that routine of a habit where you know that you've made the habit, you've formed it, and then add something else on. Space. Now I'm going to talk about this in a couple of weeks. You don't need a farm. Sorry, I've got a little cough. You don't need a farm. You don't need a huge amount of land. You can do it in a rental property. You just need a backyard. If you're in an apartment, use your balcony, veranda, windowsill, whatever you've got. You can grow things in a pot. You can make your own soap. You can make your own lotions. You can do that in an apartment or a house in suburbia. If you do have space, if you've got a backyard, go to Pinterest. Check out some of these 1 acre gardens or half acre garden things that they have on Pinterest. You would be surprised how much food you can grow when you're not growing lawn. Now, obviously, if you're in a rental property, you might want to do it in pots because you might have a landlord who says, no, I don't want my backyard chewed up. Or if there's garden beds at your rental property that have got dead plants in them, throw some herbs in around them. Like, you can use the space that you have available. No landlord is going to go, oh, you grew basil underneath my plants. That wasn't what I had in my rental agreement. So long as you keep it clean, tidy, and well kept, no landlord's going to argue with you. Time is another one. Not all your time. Farming is time consuming. Like, proper commercial farming is an everyday job. There's no days off. Christmas Day, New Year's Day, you're still farming. Homesteading, you can be a little bit more flexible. You know, like I said before, you can leave your chooks for a weekend if you've got them all set up right. With milking animals, on the off milking season during, you know, the winter period where they're not milking as much, because most homesteaders don't milk year round, not like a commercial dairy does. So during your winter off season, you can take a week away from the farm if you've got somebody to look after the animals. And there are a lot of farm sitters who will come and stay at your farm and look after animals, especially if they're low maintenance times when they're not milking and they're not got massive egg productions happening. They'll come and look after them so that you can take some time away. But it's also important to take time away each day. And if that means sitting somewhere quiet, reading a book, watching your favourite TV show, schedule in that downtime and make sure that you've got everything done so that you can sit down and watch whatever show you're watching, or you can sit down and read your book, or you can sit down with your partner and have a cup of tea or a glass of wine and have a chat about your days. Make sure that you schedule that time so that you do have some downtime. It's really important. I don't do it enough. The handy helper and I joke that our date nights generally involve us planning things for the farm. But for us, that's enjoyable. So, you know. And the other thing you really need to have homesteading is the sense of humour, because let me tell you, things will fuck up. You will make sourdough bread that's like a lump of coal that nobody can eat. You'll make soap that doesn't wash clothes. You'll make lotions that when you put them on your skin, you go, oh my God, this is disgusting. It smells bad or whatever. First attempt I had at making tallow moisturiser, it smelled like I was just rubbing cow bums on my face, like cow fat. It was horrid. It's improved, and I've actually bought some tallow, and I understand the scent a little bit better now, but the first one that I did was horrid. My soap, you know, it wasn't perfect the first time. The first couple of batches that I made, I was like, oh, this is not getting the clothes clean. I was missing an ingredient. So I went back to the starting board and started again. But you need to have a sense of humour, otherwise you'll cry. So make sure you bring the sense of humour with you so that you're not, you know, looking at your disasters and going, what the fuck have I done? So start now. Start thinking about what you want to do. It's the 1st of January. This is a new year. 2026 is supposed to be the year of action and momentum. In Chinese astrology, it's the year of the horse. And I read somewhere the other day that it's all about motion and going forward. But 2026 also, somebody numerology-wise, because I'm into all that woo-woo stuff, numerology-wise, somebody said it's a starter year, because if you had 2, 2 and 6, it's equal 1 or 1 or 9. What is it? 2, 4, 6, 10, 1. So it's a 1 year. Yeah, so it's supposed to be the start of a cycle. So if that's the case, start writing out your plans now. And I'm going to do up some sheets that I'll send out if you're on my mailing list. If you're not on my mailing list, go to www.mojohomestead.net and you'll see some things pop up there for freebies. Get on the newsletter list, because I'm going to send some things out in my newsletters that'll be charts and sheets and things like that that you can print out and use to get plans up for what you're going to do on your homestead. And next week, because we've almost gone over time, I try and keep it under 50 minutes. We're at 48 minutes now. Next week we are talking about what homesteading actually is, because I know we've discussed it a little bit now about homesteading, but what it actually is, because there's a few things that we haven't covered today. So listen in next week for that. Jump on the mailing list, on the newsletter list if you're not already. Otherwise, I hope your New Year's Day has been amazing. I hope you had a lovely New Year's Eve. I hope you've been able to spend time with families. If you're a first responder, I always do a shout out to first responders on these big days like Christmas and New Year's. If you are working, or you have worked, or your partner's working, thank them for their service. I hope they come home to you safely. And I will talk to you all next week. Bye for now. Well, that's it for today's episode of Ditch the Store. If you're loving the journey to self-sufficiency, be sure to subscribe. You can also leave a review for us or share this episode with a friend who's ready to break up with their supermarket. If you've got questions or success stories, we'd love to hear about them on the socials. You can also find me at www.mojohomestead.net. Until next time, keep raising, growing and making. And remember, life's too short for store-bought eggs.